The letter that saved him. Seong Yun's emotional words during Soo Kai's coma. K-drama Haven family. Sometimes the greatest love stories are not written in scripts. They are not choreographed by directors. They are not dressed up in costumes or hidden beneath spotlights. Sometimes they unfold in the quietest, most fragile of places, behind hospital doors, where life and death wrestle in silence. Hold on tight, K-drama Haven family, because this journey is only just beginning. The world of your favorite celebrities is unfolding before your eyes, and every moment is more breathtaking than the last. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now, because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. The revelations, the emotions, the moments that will change everything. And in September of 2025, the world witnessed such a story. A story that would shake fans to their core. A story about a man fighting for his life and the woman who refused to let him go. Soo Kai, the towering star with the gentle eyes. Beloved by millions, admired for his strength, his charisma, his effortless presence both on and off screen. But even stars fall. Even the brightest lights can flicker. After a devastating crash, Soo Kai was left in a coma. The headlines screamed of uncertainty. The medical bulletins were cold, clinical, heartless in their precision. And yet, beyond the sterile words, behind the hospital walls, there was a scene no fan could have imagined. Because while Soo Kai's body lay silent, there was someone who never stopped speaking to him. Songyun, the actress known for her warmth, her laughter, her kindness. She became the anchor in a storm. And she carried with her something that no machine, no doctor, no surgeon could provide. A letter, not typed, not polished, not meant for the world, but handwritten, raw, emotional, fragile in its ink, yet unshakable in its power. For days, she sat by his bedside, her eyes swollen from tears, her voice breaking with prayers. But then one night, as the world outside moved on, she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was her heart, poured out in words. She opened it gently, her hands trembling, and began to read. Her letter spoke of memories, of their first meeting, when laughter came before love, of late-night phone calls, when exhaustion from the set turned into whispers of dreams, of promises they made, softly, under skies that only they would remember. But it wasn't just nostalgia. It was hope. She wrote of a future she refused to let go of. She wrote of the places they had yet to travel, the stories they had yet to live, the family they had yet to build. She wrote of how unfair it would be to stop now, when they had only just begun. And then her words turned into pleas. She begged him not to leave. She told him she was not ready to live in a world without his laughter, without his stubbornness, without his gentle ways of making even silence feel safe. She told him she needed him, not as a co-star, not as a public figure, but as the man who had become her home. Doctors would later recall that in the days following, something changed. Tiny movements, flickers of response, the faintest, almost imperceptible signs of life returning. It was as if her words had reached into the darkness, pulling him back toward the light. Fans would never know the full text of the letter. It was private, sacred, a piece of her heart that belonged only to him. But whispers of its existence spread, and soon, the world was left with a breathtaking thought, that perhaps love can be medicine, that perhaps words can heal in ways science cannot explain. And then one morning, the impossible happened. Soo Kai opened his eyes. The room erupted with relief. Nurses ran for doctors, machines beeped in celebration, but amidst the chaos, there was only one thing he sought. Her. His gaze, still heavy with weakness, drifted until it found Songyun, sitting at his side, clutching his hand, tears streaming down her face. And though his voice was faint, almost broken, he whispered the only words that mattered. "I heard you." For fans, for the industry, for the millions who watched from afar, this was more than a recovery. It was a resurrection. A love story written not for the cameras, but for the soul. The letter that saved him has since become legend. not because the world has read it, but because we know what it did. It reminded us that sometimes the power of words can cross even the borders of consciousness. That love, when spoken with truth, can pull someone back from the edge of eternity. Soo Kai survived. Tan Songyun's letter became his lifeline. And together, they proved that even in the darkest of nights, the softest whisper of love can be enough to call someone home. The silent battle. Recovery was not instant. In fact, it was brutal. Physical therapy sessions left him gasping. Sleepless nights blurred together in pain. At times, his spirit wavered, and he would look away, ashamed of how helpless he had become. But Tan Songyun never left. Day after day, she sat with him. Sometimes in silence, sometimes with laughter, sometimes with tears. And often she read to him. Books, scripts, poems, even silly notes she scribbled on napkins. But most of all, she read her letter. Again and again. Doctors and nurses noticed it. The way his heart rate calmed whenever her voice filled the room. The way his hands twitched ever so slightly when she whispered the words only he was meant to hear. The letter became more than words on paper. It became a lifeline. A bridge connecting his fragile body to the life waiting for him beyond those hospital walls. And slowly, with each day, he grew stronger. The world reacts. Outside the hospital, fans were in turmoil. News outlets replayed every update. Hashtags trended for days. Millions prayed, lighting candles, posting messages of strength, hoping somehow their love would reach him. When whispers of Tan Songyun's letter began to spread, the story transformed. What had been a tragedy became a legend. What had been despair became hope. Fans clung to the idea that love itself had been the medicine. That devotion, pure and unwavering, had rewritten the ending of a story that seemed doomed to end in sorrow. And across Asia, from Beijing to Seoul, from Manila to Bangkok, fans gathered in vigils, holding handwritten letters of their own, inspired by her. It was no longer just about Soo Kai and Tan Songyun. It had become something larger. A movement. A belief that love, spoken honestly, could heal. The confession. Weeks later, when Soo Kai finally sat before a camera to deliver his first message to fans, the world watched with bated breath. His voice was still weak, but his words carried the weight of mountains. He thanked the doctors. He thanked the fans. But then he paused. His eyes glistened, his throat tightened, and with a trembling smile, he whispered the truth the world had long suspected. I came back because of her. The room fell silent. His team shifted nervously, knowing the storm that would follow. But Soo Kai did not care. He looked directly into the lens, his eyes shining with gratitude and something deeper, love. She read me a letter. She gave me a reason to fight. And without her, I wouldn't be here. The confession rippled like an earthquake across the internet. In seconds, headlines exploded. Clips spread like wildfire. Fans screamed, cried, and rejoiced. The walls of secrecy surrounding their relationship had crumbled, not through scandal or exposure, but through survival. What the world saw was no longer rumor, no longer speculation. It was real, undeniable. Soo Kai and Tan Songyun, not as co-stars, not as celebrities, but as two souls bound together, had shared with the world the most intimate truth of all, the legacy of a letter. Today, that letter remains a mystery. Its words known only to two hearts, its pages hidden from cameras, from interviews, from the hungry eyes of the media. But maybe that is how it should be. Because the power of that letter does not lie in the ink itself. It lies in the miracle it created. A miracle that turned despair into survival. A miracle that turned whispers into confessions. A miracle that reminded us all of something we too often forget, that love is not just a word. Love is an action. Love is a promise. Love is a force strong enough to pull someone back from the edge of eternity. And so, K-drama Haven family, when we look back at this chapter of Soo Kai and Tan Songyun's lives, we are not just remembering a hospital room, or a crash, or a recovery. We are remembering a A letter that refused to let go. A letter that saved him.